That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Welcome to a movie month where we enter Dante's Inferno. Joe Dante's Inferno, that is. The loony filmmaker with a small yet immeasurable army of B-movie fans eager to catch the next showing of Matinee. Grab a seat in our Rumble-Rama theater, but be warned, there are gremlins in the projection booth as we roll the B-roll on Joe Dante month with tonight's feature presentation, Gremlins 2, the new batch. All right, Dragon, I really should have rehearsed that a little bit.
Yeah, it's Mant, not Matinee.
Okay, I'm sorry. Kirk, is Matinee just like the abbreviated form of Matinee?
No, Matinee's the name of the movie. Mant is the movie that is like in the movie Matinee.
Okay, well, you see, I haven't seen Matinee. I like that makes like.
Why wouldn't I write out Matinee? Why would I not write that out?
Jesus Christ.
Why are there no follow-up questions beforehand?
Anyways, folks, welcome to the latest theme month. Happy to have y'all on board. It's the Joe Dante retrospective that you've all been waiting for. And I'm very excited about this one. We've got 4 films on the horizon, and it was a little bit difficult to pick out these 4. I think 3 of them came really easily to us as like obvious, like, big fan favorite movies that we have not talked about yet. And then we put up a poll for the last one to talk about, and Matinee won that pretty handily. So, and of course, Dragon, just as an asterisk to this particular podcast, obviously, on any Joe Dante retrospective, we would have started with the original Gremlins, but alas, we already talked about the original Gremlins in our seasonal shenanigans a few years back. So here we go. We have Gremlins 2, the new batch. Dragon, besides Small Soldiers, 3 out of the 4 of these movies we're talking about, I know next to nothing about Matinee, as we clearly illustrated. So I'm excited about this, about all these new movies, because Gremlins 2, I honestly didn't really know what to expect, because the only thing I really knew about it was that it was like kind of like, oh, crazier and more meta than the first. It's like, like the first movie was kind of like, almost in the mold of E.T., kind of like a boy and his pet kind of story with some crazy Spielberg creature shenanigans. And this movie just completely goes off the rails. I would say probably 8 out of 10 times it goes off the rails for me. It works. I think there is a little bit of self-indulgence here. There is a little bit of like, all right, guys, like this is just getting ridiculous. Like, let's, we got to have a movie in here at some point. We, as much as we love the Rick Baker Gremlin designs, like the whole movie can't just be the Gremlin shenanigans. And Dragon, at the end of the day, I think that's kind of like where the line is with Gremlins and Gremlins 2. Gremlins is clearly the better story with the better character arcs and everything. It's a much more traditional Hollywood 3-act narrative. Gremlins 2 is incredibly meta, incredibly like, I don't know, it almost feels like anarchic. Like, there's got a sense of anarchy to it. There we go. There's a word I can use. Where I really feel like it fits Dante's mold even more than the original Gremlins does, just because of how distinctly mean-spirited some of the stuff is. Obviously, the meta humor. Of course, Dragon, our good friend, the Malt, showing up for an epic cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just overall, Dragon, I would kind of compare this to Wayne's World 2. Whereas Wayne's World 2, not as good of a plot as the first movie, probably not as good character arcs, but they really pushed all the meta humor from the first Wayne's World into the stratosphere with Wayne's World 2. And that's kind of what this movie feels like. This movie feels like the Wayne's World 2 of the Gremlin movies, in the sense that, like, do we really need it? Not really. But is it a lot of fun and really heady and meta? Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Dragon, I'm a fan. I don't think I would call this better than the first, just because the first is just kind of like, that's classic Hollywood right there. but it is very interesting for what it is. And honestly, some of the stuff with the clamp industries, Dragon, that stuff has aged remarkably well as far as social commentary goes.
Yeah.
All right, what do you have to say, sir?
So Gremlins 2, personally, with my own preferences, I've always preferred Gremlins 2 to the original. Personally, in that, mind you, it's not as great a movie as the first Gremlins, no contest. But it fits my sensibilities. I'm more horror comedy than I am kind of horror. In which Gremlins, the original Gremlins, is kind of like very much the love letter to the B movie, but it's very much it's kind of like looped into kind of the horror narrative. That's kind of what the first Gremlins is.
Uh,
This movie is very much just purely the love letter to the B movie and just in the lighter tone. I love the lighter tone. I love the meta-contextual flair to this film. It's kind of my thing. I like it.
yeah, I was gonna say this thing almost kind of like walked so Deadpool could run as far as the meta
Exactly.
humor goes.
That's what I'm saying. So, basically with a little bit more of a B movie kind of flavor to it, but absolutely. John, here's the thing. Joe Dante, he's having such a good time making this sequel, basically making fun of sequels, doing this sequel. He's having such a good time making fun of sequels with his most iconic work, which is so remarkable and so rare. I mean, can you think of how many filmmakers get the opportunity of like, hey, I'm going to make fun of like the thing that made me a household name in the second movie, all
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
place.
yeah.
And essentially was given a blank check to do it, which is phenomenal. So this this is very much it's celebrating the things that inspired him. There's a lot of Joe Dante's DNA kind of in this thing in the best of ways. You could argue it's Joe Dante at the top of his profession, because this movie, more than any movie in his career, from what I understand, he had all the control in this film. Like ever, like
I
he
could
had,
totally see it. Yeah.
like yeah, there's I mean, obviously, this movie's with the technological kind of stuff with the clamp tower and with the clamp industries of it all scratches my gadget itch for sure. I love me some John Glover, and my goodness, John Glover is so wonderful in this movie. We
He
got
delivers for sure.
we got Dick Miller, as we always do in a Joe Dante film, which is I wouldn't have it any other way, and it's a lot of fun. Ultimately, Gremlins 2, it's just so much fun. I know it's a lot more rewatchable. It's like Gremlins, like very much like it's like if you had like
Gremlins is
one,
like a holiday hallmark, right? It's like it's the type of movie where it's like every couple years you need to turn it on. Gremlins 2, I could see you turning it on just if you're in the mood for something wild and crazy.
yeah,
It's like,
Gremlins 2 is an impulse. Gremlins
yeah,
1 is like
yeah,
it's an event of like, you know what, we're gonna watch
totally,
Gremlins this year.
totally.
Let's sit down for it, okay? We're gonna watch during Christmas or just during
Yeah,
some other time. Like I don't know. Let's just watch it. Let's make an event of it. Gremlins 2. Let's watch it anytime. Let's watch that
right,
train
right,
movement scene again.
exactly.
Let's do it. So background's really fascinating on this. Not numerous, but it is fascinating. So in '84, obviously, Gremlins comes out. It went over very well, surprisingly well, in fact, to the point where Warner Brothers, who honestly, from the way Joe Dante tells the story, they didn't care for the movie, but they loved that it made them money. It's like that's the thing of like we don't get it, but they made
I mean,
money,
that's
so
Hollywood for you. Am I right?
that's what I'm saying. Joe Dante is again. So Joe, here's the thing to you. Joe Dante is absolutely our cup of tea, man. This Joe Dante he's a Jersey boy of a filmmaker. He,
Uh-huh.
he's very honest, very forthright. He's the guy who's like kind of battled with Hollywood from time to time, and he's again he's like the approachable version of kind of the the Spielberg gang.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, the new age Hollywood, the new age of Hollywood. That whole thing.
He's got a lot of Spielberg DNA in his style.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
I feel like he pushes the pulp elements further than Spielberg does.
Yeah, it's like Spielberg's nephew.
Right, right, yeah.
So, I mean, believe it or not, after Gremlins came out, Joe Dante, they offered him, I don't know if you've ever heard about this, Tiki, they offered him a pretty big film that he turned down.
What
They,
was
uh,
it?
they, they offered him Batman.
I did hear about this. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the thing is, if you ever heard about this, so Joe Dante, he was offered Batman, and he
That's
was
why they had the Bat Gremlin in this.
yes and no. I think it was more of like that was Leah Warner's like I don't know. I think it was like, well, if we're going to do a bat gag, and yeah, it was probably on his mind. And yeah, remember, this movie was made in '89. Well, that's, when that comes out, and this came out in '90. So Batman was
Uh-huh.
on everyone's mind. So it was probably, I don't know if it was mandated or it's like, I know the studio loved it, no matter what they put in there for the
I mean,
studio.
it's a cool creature design regardless. So if anything else, it's just kind of happy serendipity.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, point being, he was gonna have like John Lithgow as the Joker, and the reason Joe Dante didn't do the movie is, because he'd done Twilight Zone, and John Lithgow was on that project. That's kind of why
God,
John
I would
Lithgow
love
was
to
on.
see John Lithgow in a Gremlins movie.
Yeah, it'd be
He
amazing.
would fit like a glove, dude.
He would, like a very well seamed glove, sir. Yes, but that's the thing. So Dante basically had like kind of a powwow with himself, like, I don't believe in Batman. I believe in the Joker, but I can't do a Joker movie. Oh, if he only knew years later there would be.
Yep.
Anyway, so point being, so years go
You
by.
hear Alan Moore's whole like quote about like Batman and the Joker are two people that would never exist in the real world.
Okay.
I'm like, what are you talking about, Alan Moore? Says the dude who writes about like Cthulhu shit and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. What the fuck is up your ass? Anyways,
Okay. Anyway, point
that was him
being,
renouncing the Killing Joke, by the way. But
as
go
as
ahead.
as he is wont to do. My point. So, point. Joe Dante again. He was very in demand. So, Gremlins does really good. And Warner Bros. Like, hey, you want to do a sequel for us? And he said, well, no. I kind of told my story in the movie, and also it's the fact that Gremlins was really hard to make because it was stuff that had not been done with all the puppetry and everything. And it was like, oh god, this is they invent a whole bunch of new things. Technically, man, I don't want to do a whole nother one of those just after I figured it out the first time, and I had an ending for it. Gizmo, bye, Billy. It's like, there's your ending, like wrap it up, put it on the Christmas tree. So he did not want to take part in the sequel. Warner Brothers had tried to get a sequel off the ground, but again, they didn't care for the movie, so they had no idea how to make it work and who to get to write and direct and everything. So basically, they kept trying and failing at it for a couple of years, and then Joe Dante, they basically Terry Semmel, one of the head honchos of Warner Brothers, he goes to Joe Dante and he basically very casually says, "Hey, listen, Joe, you wanna do that Gremlin sequel? You can do whatever you want, so long as it clocks in at 90 minutes. We'll let you do whatever you." Literally, that's literally how that goes. Just went to him, 90 minutes, so long as it's
Technically,
90
this
minutes.
clocks in at 1 hour 40 minutes without credits.
Well, that's what I'm.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, without credits though, 90 minutes.
No, without credits. Like it's an hour 45 minutes, and 5 of those minutes are credits. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they meant it in terms of, well, then we'll add on the credits, but
All right.
The point being, the Rough League and the whole 90-minute thing. That was the only thing he bumped up against here.
Let's just say the Leonard Maltin, Hulk Hogan, and Looney Tune bits were added last minute, and that bumped the runtime up.
Okay, so the point being, they give him a blank check essentially to make the movie, and also they tripled the budget from the first movie, which is substantial. So because again, they make room for the effects. And well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to need money for the effects. The first movie
still looks pretty damn good.
It does. And mind you, it's a different effects guy on the Gremlins, which again, it's still. That being said, it's very coherent. It's very cohesive between the two.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rick Baker.
Do you even know who the other guy in the corner is?
No, I don't.
Chris Wallace, yes, Chris Wallace. By the way, mini rant, real quick. Chris Wallace did a documentary on his time working on the first Gremlins movie. It's called Gremlins: The Puppet Story. Sounds amazing. Here's the problem: it had one of those theatrical releases in 2020, which I'm sure ran into some problems, and it was like one of those it's like an indie thing where you have it brought to the theater and you request it and everything. So no way to watch this film.
Oh,
no way at all. Which drives me
like
nuts.
streaming or 1, 2, 3 movies or anything.
Nothing. Nada.
Oh man.
No way to watch it because it was only that one theatrical window. In
that's crazy.
I have no idea who's seen this. Anyway.
All right.
Point being, so the opportunity was, Joe Dante saw this as, okay, I don't want to make a movie, so I don't want to make a sequel to Gremlins, so I'll just make fun of it for that reason of just like, I'll make the most unconventional, unnecessary studio picture ever. And he basically just had a bunch of, he basically threw as many crazy ideas that he could at Warner Bros. To see if they would balk at anything, and they didn't. The only thing they balked at was like, we got to cut scenes to make it 90 minutes. That's the only note they gave him. The only note. Anyway, so they kind of came about like, okay, let's put the Gremlins in New York, but then they had to minimize it for budget, even triple the budget. That'd be like really insane to do Gremlins all throughout New York City. So okay, let's put them in a building, an automated building.
So I like that with that, it essentially becomes Gremlins meets Die Hard.
Yeah, pretty much. Which again was the trend very much in the '80s, like Die Hard on a
It's
bus,
kind of
Die
like a
Hard this.
happy accident in that way.
Absolutely. So they went to Rick Baker for the effects, and Rick Baker, they went to him on the first movie, and I
I
believe he
mean, Rick
turned it.
Baker I hype him up, but like, goddamn, his work in this movie is just phenomenal, dude.
I
Like,
know.
it really is. It's just seamless how many gremlins are on screen at the same time, and they all just look like they're truly living and breathing.
Yeah, so how they did that, they invented this new system for puppeteering the Gremlins, which allowed them to, basically they were able to sync up the dialogue instead of just timing
Uh-huh.
with the puppetry. They had they call it like a Gilder flute. The Gilder flute system. Essentially, that's what allows you to play the pre-recorded dialogue and sync it up. I don't know if that was the first time it was ever invented. That's just what they kind of did to rig it up to Gremlins themselves with animatronics like this. Whatever they did,
James
it
Cameron
worked.
is working on an advanced version of this for Avatar 2, Dragon, mark my words.
I wish. The point being, Rick Baker, they approached him for the first movie, turned him down. The only reason they got him back for this, they got him in on this film, was he would only do it if he could create new and original Gremlins, which is why we have the mutants and we have the Gremlins with varied. Basically, this is why the Gremlins
And
look
this
even
movie
better.
just goes absolutely balls to the walls with new creature designs.
Think about it.
It really does.
Even before the mutated Gremlins, the main set of Gremlins, they're all distinct. You can tell who's who, and they have names.
You have the
and stuff,
one who's on speed. You have the the smarter one. You have the more sinister one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So all the effects, practical or again with or a form of animation via stop motion or 2D with the electrical gremlin. Lovely story. Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee had worked on The Howling too because Joe Dante did
I
the
love how
original.
Christopher Lee just like he doesn't even have that big of a part. He just pops up for like a few scenes. Like, yes, I'm here too.
Here's the thing. I was so delighted. Apparently, Christopher Lee was like a darling on set, and it's such a wonderful.
Christopher Lee is a darling on any set.
I know, but
wonderful stories of him on the Lord of the Rings set.
That's what I'm saying. So here was like another one of those stories where like he went on the set, he apologized to Joe Dante for doing The Howling 2 because Dante because the studio gave him the runaround on that. He says, "Oh no, it's fine."
Christopher Lee was like basically like the Tolkien expert on the Lord of the Rings set, which I think was really cool. Like even Peter Jackson would go to him for like Tolkien authenticity. Anyways.
According to Dante, what happened is there was basically, it sounds like Christopher Lee really got us. This is like one of the first times Christopher Lee really became aware of like the reverence people had for his Hammer horror stuff. Where like everyone on the set was a huge fan of what he did there, and Christopher Lee in general, and they all like pretty much like they like in awe of him and treated him really nicely. And he kind of saw on Christopher Lee, he was really kind of touched by. He kind of got it, like, oh my god, there's all these people know who I am.
Nice.
And apparently this was like, I think this was like his 200th film, and they had like a cake for him on set, like not a birthday cake, but like a 200th movie celebration cake and everything. It was like a whole like they loved Christopher Lee, man, as we all do. And again, I love when Christopher Lee pops up, and when we kind of went over his works, one of my favorite roles that he's done is Dr. Cathler in Gremlins 2. So yeah, and as we know, after this movie, been a lot of attempts at Gremlins 3, still in quotes in the works. Last we heard it was 2020, but clearly, no idea what's.
I don't care about Gremlins 3. You know what I care about, Dragon?
What?
A Gremlins Halloween Horror Nights maze.
You know, they are doing something Gremlins related, though. They're doing the animated prequel with Gizmo. Not Joe Dante, not involved, from what I understand. It's gonna be,
I'm not sure how I feel about that. That could be good. It could be just like a cash in. I don't know.
That's the thing. I'm mainly interested in Gremlins 3 because, again, Chris Columbus would be directing Gremlins 3.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, man, he is a good choice.
So that's the thing. If you're going to get someone to fill in for Joe Dante...
I mean, Chris Columbus isn't like a great fit for a lot of franchise, but he is a great fit for Gremlins.
Yeah, and of course, according to a top piece here, Gremlins 3 is already dead. It's too long. It's been too long.
I mean, Atomic Beast, like we're living in an age where we get these like kind of like nostalgia revival reboots all the time. But like I said, like as a Halloween Horror Nights guy, I would just be super interested to see what they could do with Gremlins in that kind of setting. I think that would be fascinating.
It would
But,
be. It would be interesting for sure. They're very much keyed in for that sort of thing. Yeah, like the last we've seen of the Gremlins was that Super Bowl commercial.
and then also like Lego Batman.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying we've literally seen like Billy.
I feel like Lego Batman was a pretty prominent. Like, hey, we all remember the Gremlins.
I mean, we've seen basically only time we've seen Gremlins outside of stuff like a Lego Batman or so is we've seen them in commercials. Like there's the Gremlins themselves, and then recently Billy and Gizmo in the little Super Bowl ad with the Mountain Dew or 7-Up or whatever it was.
All right, let's see. So with Talk Beast, just shout out a couple more of his comments. He says, surprised you didn't see Gremlins 2, the movie where Hulk Hogan appeared and the actor who plays Lionel Luthor from Smallville.
Yep, John Glover.
Then Talk Beast says, that's true. I mean, I did joke about the revival for Samurai Jack, Invader Zim, etc. Yeah.
And they all happened.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if we could get 2 Ghostbusters movies in this in this current age, we can get 1 new Gremlins movie, right?
I would like to think so.
Just get the Stranger Things kids.
Yeah, let's just get those strange kids off the street, put them in the
like it doesn't even have to be the A-listers, get like Sadie Sink or something in the lead. I don't know.
Anyway, let's So let's. I guess the place to start would be there's a symbolic moment that opens the movie. Mr. Wing. We kill off.
Well, hold on. If we want to talk about the opening of the movie, Dragon, we have to talk about the opening of the movie.
Okay, so now remember in the first Gremlins movie, because again, Joe Dante. And this we're gonna. Well, your son's gonna pop up later in our month. So Joe Dante loves Looney Tunes. Very much apparent in his work with all the crazy shenanigans that happen. And remember, in the first Gremlins, Chuck Jones has a cameo. So Chuck Jones, he did the animation for the
Dragon. When I sat down to watch this, man, I was so thrown off by this in the most delightful way. I was like, oh my god. Like it feels like something that would be done nowadays in an animated movie. You know what I mean?
Well, there's like an extended version of this you can find.
Is there really?
Yeah, of the whole. Basically, it was longer, but again, they had to trim things down.
All right, so we should probably just explain. Like the whole gag is like Daffy basically kicks Bugs off of the Warner Brothers logo as he rides in on it. He's like, "It's my turn to ride the logo."
Yep, you've been doing it for 50 years, buddy. It's my turn.
And I love the meta quality of just like the logo being like this symbol of, of like, oh, if you've really made it at Warner Brothers if you can ride the symbol.
Yeah.
Good fun. All right.
So, Mr. Wing, we kill him.
Yeah, like Dragon. Was this an issue of like the actor not wanting to come back, or?
Well, no, Tiki. That's the thing. I mean, the guy was like, "Hey, listen, Joe, when you do the third one, make sure to bring it back in like a flashback or something." He was very into it. He loved the role. Now, what happened was, again, this is the problem of this is Joe Dante again, just kind of making fun of the sequel a little bit here, in which he had to kill off Mr. Wing because he had a perfect ending on the first movie. Well,
you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I would almost prefer it if he just was not in this movie, because having him in one scene almost feels like a tease. You know what I mean?
I mean, but man, you only had him in 2 scenes in the original movie, Tiki. So
yeah, that's true, but they're very pivotal scenes. Whereas with this, it's just kind of like, "Oh, we're gonna do this to you, old man, and there's nothing you can do to stop it."
Well, remember, they weren't threatening him, Tiki. They were just offering him money for his store, and they knew he didn't have much time left, so there was a little sinister. But they weren't like forcing, like, "Okay, look, you hear that cough? He doesn't have long." Which they were right. But that's the thing. It was very much basically we're putting Mr. Wing in a Carl Fredricksen from Up situation here, where it's like we're trying to you're basically the last piece of real estate, so we can do the we can basically do kind of a Chinatown version of the Clamp Tower, kind of like a Clamp shopping center.
I think that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that subplot goes very many places outside of the whole Billy doing the concept art for it thing.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That's the, basically the
Like, I
main
think
things
there
that
could have been more of a commentary about like gentrification with that idea. You know what I
I
mean?
yes, but not again. The problem with a lot of things with the movie is that basically, and you'll notice with the
They're
lead
throwing a
character.
lot of shit at the wall, and they don't have time to flesh most of it out.
Well, yes, but I was going to say primarily, like for example, like Gizmo and Billy, who are the stars of the last film.
Oh,
Their screen time gets shrunken because it's Gremlins left and right because there's too many Gremlins in the movie.
yeah, Dragon. This is honestly
It's
one of
fun.
the
I love the stuff with the Gremlins, but I'm just that's the
no, no,
fact of the
no.
matter.
I
It's like
totally agree with you though. By the time we get to the climax, it's like the one time in my life where I'm like, I think I've had enough Joe. I think I've had enough Rick Baker puppets for one movie. I never thought I'd say that, Dragon.
anyway. So just real quick, so I want to say with the sad death of, and again, necessary because we needed to get him out of the movie, but again, at least it was a
uh-huh.
memorable way to do it because you felt bad for poor Gizmo, and also the stakes are real. We've endangered Gizmo. We've taken away like the him to be indoors, so now he's in a very vulnerable position, and he is he's kind of absconded with. So yeah, like
So
before the sunlight
let's
got him.
talk about Gizmo because that is one of the things in this movie that I find the most fascinating. The fact that Gizmo essentially has like a solo storyline the whole movie where he's on this Rambo style
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really thought that it was a risk that paid off because I really like I don't know. I really think that Gizmo kind of has like some baby Yoda upside in this movie, honestly. Just as far as like being really proactive about the situation.
Oh, for sure, sure. And remember, the one that he takes out is the leader. It's the one with the mohawk that
Uh-huh,
got
uh-huh.
mutated into a spider. So that's the same one.
Okay, by the way, those spider gremlins are like easily my favorite designs in the series, I think.
Well, remember, Tig, it's only one spider gremlin. So yeah.
No, I know, but like I'm sorry. Yeah, but you're right. But I just love that design.
No, you're right. It's a great design. They did like the whole centaur thing with it. It looks great.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, so the point being, so I like it symbolically though. Like we took away basically Joe Dante's mission statement in this movie is again throwing so much crazy stuff at you, and so many left turns that people will not be able to do the predictable sequel thing where they're going to know, okay, well it's going to copy what was in the first movie and do this
But you know what's
again.
funny
Where
is that this movie does kind of do that.
I mean, in terms of like there are certain mandates with Gremlins, and that well he has to get wet or else nothing else is going to happen.
Right. I mean,
So
it's
I
not
mean,
like a beat by beat copy of the plot or anything, but like there's like you said, there's it definitely feels like it's going down a checklist.
yeah, what I mean is like we took away okay our safety net of okay we're just gonna give him back to Key Luke. Like no, we've killed off Key Luke. He can't go back there.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm saying. Like we've taken away the safety net and the status quo, and then it was like, well, where are we going now?
Yeah.
So let's just talk about our setting, man. Let's talk about unless you have any comments you think we should bring up right now.
Let's see. He just says Tom B says, I kind of think that the modern times taking Gizmo away from his environment is how modern times is destroying tradition.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah.
All right, yeah, Clamp Tower or Clamp Industries
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it's called.
Well, it's Clamp Center. I call it Clamp Tower for obvious reasons. But it's Clamp
yes.
So we're just in general the New York setting, but specifically a Clamp Center,
I
which
think the
essentially
Clamp Center is just wonderfully creative, and I think there's
yes,
so many like subtle gags and subtle like bits of social commentary, and I just love it, Dragon. I really do. I mean, like it's all so tongue in cheek and it's both in your face but also kind of like in the background at the same time, you know what I mean?
it's a perfect setting, and it's an upgrade to the kind of the gadget thing with that we had with Rand Peltzer. Remember Rand Peltzer, the father who's the inventor.
Of
So this is
course.
kind of like the
Yeah.
upgrade to like, okay, let's just take the gadget thing to another level. Let's level that up. And it's a very ahead of its time satire on modernization and the whole user friendly world of today. Only it's not as
Incredibly
miniaturized.
ahead of its time. I mean, I feel like this social commentary would be relevant nowadays.
I agree, and it's of course I love the mix, and of course you kind of have this with some we in the past. I've also with Batman the animated series and what they did there is kind of like a more B movie kind of. It's like the '50s meets the '90s in terms of that blend. There's a lot of '50s B movie in there, but it just looking back on it, there's like a great like again we tried like to be ahead of our time, even though we were big and clunky and gaudy, like with the big giant cell phones versus the tiny things that we have now, and like car phones and stuff like that. And in this case
Uh-huh.
we put it in this literal skyscraper. It's my favorite subtle gag in the whole thing, by the way. I love that. Literally, if you look in Clamp's office, he outside of his window are clouds and a plane going by. See, he's literally at the top floor of his building, goes up beyond the clouds.
Yes.
Which is awesome. So speaking of which, also to your point too, again, it's very much, it's the B movie Die Hard equivalent of it's Die Hard of the future,
And I love how there's so many like different areas of this place, and most of them just seem wildly unnecessary. Like, I love the fucking gag about just the genetics lab just randomly being in the middle.
Remember what the lab's called?
Yeah, they're just in the middle of this commercial space dragon.
Okay, so here's the thing. So remember, they're leasing the space to all the it's pretty much Clamp Center is like a giant glorified mall.
That cracks me up because of the whole they're bad tenants.
Yes, exactly, and also just to shout out the name because it's really clever and funny. Splice of Life, designer jeans. So it sounds like a mall.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. It's turned into like a giant mall inside a building, and
then let's see, all the TV stuff is really on point with the parodies.
Mm-hmm.
I love a woman who has the cooking show where all she does is microwave stuff. That's
microwaving with Marge.
Clever.
Yeah.
I love the line she has, leave, get out of here or die. And shit starts to go down.
So speaking of which,
I love the Robin Hood archer who comes out of the archery channel.
Which again, at the time, there was no such thing, and now we have channels for everything, for every sport.
Yes. I mean, I don't know, just every one of these little sight gags and ideas, it's all so great, and the whole fact that we've got tour guides giving tours of the building,
and they're wearing the giant silly hats.
Right. That's a very kind of Disney sort of corporate synergy sort of thing.
My favorite detail in the place, by the way, always tickled me to no end. Just to show you how unnatural the place is, so kind of modernized the place is. The plants are metal, they spray painted all the flowers and the plants metal. So, but that's I love that nothing works right in this place, the revolving doors and everything. But the fact that nothing works right before the Gremlins show up is just a great omen to, oh God, how much worse could things get? So Daniel Clamp. I adore John Glover in this film, and I always loved that guy. I mean, of course, he's the Riddler from Batman the Animated Series.
Me, his most memorable moment in film will always be, "I'm afraid you'll have to die."
Yeah,
but this is probably the best singular performance I have seen from him.
I mean, for Glover, it's three roles. It's Riddler. Well, I guess in live action, it's that guy. It's Daniel Clamp. And Lionel
guy, let's face it, it's a thankless role that he just put his heart and soul into for the brief.
Okay, look, I know it's Dr. Jason Woodrue. I just said that guy because let's be honest, it's not the most defined portrayal of Jason Woodrue. Let's be honest.
No, like I said, it's a very lightly written role. I just think the reason it's so memorable is because he really makes a meal out of those lines.
That's what I'm saying. Just think about it.
I'm afraid you'll have to die.
I just love him. Keep putting John Glover in DC roles, by the way. Put him in Shazam, put him in Batman the Animated Series, put him anyway. So, but yeah, seriously, I've always my favorite. He's
almost kind of got an Ed Begley Jr. quality to him a little bit.
I mean, yes, but here's the thing. So he is intended to be a combination of Ted Turner, and hence the TV station and the whole he doesn't like black and white movies thing. Ted Turner and
Casablanca, now in color with a happier ending,
which cracks me up to no end.
What do you think the happier ending would be?
Okay,
just being no, Elsa, screw your husband. You gotta stay here with me. To hell with the wall.
And then it just cuts to it's okay, she didn't get on the plane. Or okay, we're hearing the music. Or it's this beginning of a beautiful relationship. Just gonna dump it over or something. Anyway, but yeah, so it's kind of a combination of Ted Turner and then 80s businessman and cameo aficionado Donald Trump. So that's the thing. I love that. However, what they realized is, so he was supposed to be kind of almost supposed to be kind of the suit bad guy of the film, but they realized John Glover is so darn likable. He made the character so ridiculously charming. He could not.
This
be the bad
was
guy.
A really good decision on the script's part
to not
have him I mean, he's a little bit of a slime ball and he's opportunistic, but that's it. You know, he doesn't have some like mustache twirling villain, villain scheme going on.
The difference is there's no malice in what he's doing. That's
Yeah.
the difference. He's not intentionally hurting or offending anybody here. The fact is that
If
he's
anything else,
basically
he's kind of like a more over the top entrepreneurial, like Howard Hamlin type or something like that.
Sure. I mean, ultimately, it's basically he's like a kid with an endless bank account, and he's so darn nice and wide eyed, and I just love the way he plays that and everything. You know, it's great. Again, he's not a bad or greedy billionaire. Like literally at the end of the movie, this is kind of a thing that runs with Joe Dante's movies when he puts a fine button on things at the end, which he does here and he does in another movie. It's kind of like okay, a rich guy comes by and makes everyone feel nice by giving them money. Essentially, so I just love that. I love that we did it here with this guy and the fact.
You think Joe Dante is just a really big fan of A Christmas Carol and he wants to just like repeat the magic of that ending?
I mean, it's possible. I don't know. Also, the clamp logo, by the way, how great is that logo? Where it's literally just like a giant vice grip clamp sort of thing, clamping down on the earth as it spins.
Yeah, I love the logo. I specifically love the structure that is outside that represents the logo.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, Dragon. This will excite you a little bit, but you could totally picture that as like the exterior for a Gremlins ride, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, now I want that.
So before we just move on to the characters and some of the other stuff that ends in the movies, what the last thing with the location really have is that it's such a wonderful solution to not being able to have the Gremlins throughout New York City because it's again, the Gremlins are all about technical difficulties. That already goes hand in hand, but it's the opposite mentality of with the New York setting. Period. It's everyone there and just all the opportunistic people in the suits and everything that are in there. It's the fact it's like a big old skyscraper in a building. It's the opposite mentality and feel from the small town Kingston Falls, like Back to the Future backlot town.
Totally.
It's like their style and character.
It's almost kind of like you want these people to get taken down a peg.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's a lot easier to buy that they'd be exaggerated and cartoony, which is what Joe Dante's going for tonally in the movie. It plays a lot. You don't have to be as grounded and more like, okay, well, we're really.
Well, I mean, there's a reason we start with a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, like, the first movie I have like, oh, there's the poor Murray Futterman just kind of like, drunkenly, like,
Yeah, I mean, like we already kind of established, the first movie very much was, kind of like the traditional sort of like boy and his dog kind of narrative.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. So speaking of the boy and his dog, let's talk about the boy and his girlfriend. Let's talk about Billy and Kate.
All right. I think they're okay. I do think that Kate unfortunately does have a little bit of a like it's not as bad as Jessica and Back to the Future, but it's still like okay, like she's just kind of there. She's
Jennifer.
Doing stuff. I don't really think it's the most fleshed out role. I do like how Billy is very proactive throughout the movie, and I like how he's kind of like trying to navigate all these different like corporate politics, like like his boss who's trying to woo him and stuff like that. I think all that's fun. I don't know, when you throw the girlfriend into it, she's sweet, and I love Phoebe Case, and it's nice to see her again. I'm just saying that she doesn't really do anything that's particularly memorable. I think maybe the most memorable thing that happens with her is when she brings the cocaine addicted gremlin back to the apartment.
Okay, they have names. That one's Daffy. Okay,
it's Daffy. That's fun.
Yeah,
that's an appropriate name.
Yeah, the hyperactive one with the cross eyes is Daffy. That's that. Yeah.
And in my head canon, Daffy Duck is also a cocaine addict. So there you go.
Well, wait. All right.
I mean, have you seen how hyper that duck is?
Yes. Anyway, giving coke to the Looney Tunes. I hope you're proud of yourself. So,
hey, don't blame me. Cartoon All-Stars to the rescue did it first.
Anyway.
What's this? A joint?
Are you finished?
Yes, I am.
So yes, but on the whole, Billy and Kate, they do kind of get the shaft again because of the Gremlin overload. I do prefer.
I really feel like they're just kind of there because it's like okay, like they were the heroes of the first movie. Let me pose this to you, Dragon. This is an interesting question. Do you think the movie would have played better if we just had an entirely original human cast and maybe Clamp himself was the main character?
I mean, here's the thing. Billy's role is we reduced Billy to the role of town crier, and that the only thing he can do in the movie is just basically, I've dealt with these things before. Like they're gonna do bad stuff. They're gonna do bad stuff. Stop
I
them.
mean,
That's
he's
all he's
pretty much Mr. Exposition in this movie.
exactly. So I
Yeah,
mean, by that logic, we kind of need him because he's the only one who knows. Like, okay, well, he's basically the only inkling of plot that we have. Okay, we have to stop the Gremlins. That's his only role in the
right.
movie. So you're not wrong. But I don't know. It's like we like Billy. Basically, if Gizmo's going to be in the movie, you need Billy. I'm going to say that much. If Gizmo's in there, you kind of need Billy because again, of that boy and his dog story. And honestly, what I really liked, we didn't
But
do
the thing
anything.
is, I feel like Gizmo kind of like he steps up to the plate more in this movie, and he almost has more of an arc than Billy himself does. So do we really need Billy? When the whole point of the movie is, at least from Gizmo's arc, is him surviving on his own and becoming like a badass, Rambo Mogwai.
Well, look, you're not wrong that Gizmo, by comparison, has the better arc. It's just still, I think it's roughly the same amount of screen time. Only Gizmo gets further, really. Ultimately, I don't.
Sure,
It's like
sure.
Billy basically gets like the little bow tied at the end of like, hey, you're gonna get everything you wanted. Really? Yeah. But that's the thing. What I liked at the start of the movie that we didn't really do a ton of a lot with because there was no room to do it in is that I love these two crazy kids. Billy and Kate.
They
They
do
move
have a
into.
very humble relationship, and I love that the whole dinner date thing did not entirely derail the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean
We just
specifically.
had the little line of like, Billy, if we survive this day, you're in big trouble. And that's it. We leave it at that.
Yeah, well, what I mean is I like the whole they're like scrimping and saving, and trying to live in the big city together, like building so they can get married. Like that's so cute to me. Like, oh, isn't that nice? And they're working in the same building, kind of like Carl and Ellie at the zoo, isn't that kind of that's nice?
Uh-huh.
And Gizmo's return, I think maybe the focus could have been a little bit more. Is that Gizmo's return is sort of like the test of like, are you ready for marriage, responsibility, and kids, sort of thing. But it gets a little sidetracked in the midst of like Lady Gremlin, Electoral Gremlin.
You want to break down some of those?
Well, yeah, sure. Let's see. Let's talk about the Gremlins now. Yeah.
So, intellectual gremlin. Oh my
Well,
lord.
Brainy Gremlin, yes. So Brainy
Um,
Gremlin is voiced by the incomparable Tony Randall, Felix from The Odd Couple. Oh, I love
yes,
me some Tony
yes.
Randall. I love him in this
Dragon,
movie.
this was the first time in the movie where I was just like, oh, this movie's really going for it. All right, all right. Let's see where this goes.
I just love when he pops up with the glasses. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in this movie.
He's
You,
just
my
like
friend,
instantly
have
going into
potential.
like scientific ramifications.
Yes. The sunlight you see for the people of our of our ethnic persuasion, it will kill us, turn us crispy. Now, using this genetic sunblock. Anyway, the whole thing, of course, obviously his interview with Grandpa Fred, talking about the whole like, we want what everyone wants, to be civilized. It's
Uh-huh.
great.
Yeah, I think he's easily like he's easily probably the standout of the antagonist gremlins, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's so weird because again, technically they built up, and honestly, this is kind of some sequel baity stuff that Joe Dante is doing ultimately. And that, hey, we need someone who's the equivalent of Stripes, so we're gonna have that one intimidating gremlin that pops up,
Right.
and it's gonna be, and of course that ends up being the Spider Gremlin, but still the real money gremlin is the brainy gremlin.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So again, we want to be civilized, but are we going? We may stumble, of course, sure. Of course, like I recommend they're doing like the stockbroker thing. I recommend you take stock in canned goods and shotguns.
And
Anyway,
then I feel like, I mean, obviously I wasn't there at the time of this movie being marketed, but I feel like they probably really pushed the Lady Gremlin.
I imagine. I think between the brain gremlin and more so the lady gremlin,
The
you're
Lady
absolutely right.
Gremlin
Yeah.
almost kind of feels like a Slimer type creation, where it was like she was made specifically to like have a really memorable, iconic design.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just so again, our main gremlins are just to kind of shout them out here again. You have Daffy, who's again like the hyper cross-eyed,
I
goofy guy.
really think he does have a lot of fun moments.
You have
Honestly, I think the scene in the apartment might be the funniest scene in the movie.
Okay, that's one of my. I have very few true nitpicks outside the obvious just things like, well, it's a little maybe some gremlin overload and that compromises our kind of a run the
You don't
timing
like
of
the
our
apartment
characters.
stuff?
Well, no, well here's it's not so. I don't. The apartment stuff's fine. Here's my issue. The nitpick I have is that look. I know, and they're always going with the fact that, like, well, she didn't really spend a lot of time with Gizmo. Really, she couldn't tell
Yeah,
that
I
wasn't
don't mind
Gizmo.
that. I don't mind that. I think the design of that gremlin looks enough like Gizmo that I can buy the confusion.
I don't know. It's like,
I don't know. I give it a pass, Dragon. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a plot hole, but it just doesn't bother me that much.
I'd say, like, the worst things I can ever say about this movie are that and the whole. It's three things. It's that, the love triangle thing, which could have been a lot worse, so it's fine.
Oh, yeah, I think the love triangle thing is totally fine. Like you said, it could have been way worse. It could have
Yeah.
totally derailed the movie.
Plus, it takes us to a Canadian restaurant, which is funny.
Yeah, there you go. that whole Canadian restaurant bit totally felt like something out of the Muppets, didn't it?
You want your chocolate mousse, don't you?
Yes. Oh my! That chocolate mousse is such a Muppets bit, Dragon. It's such a Muppets bit. I could just totally see short Steve Martin offering Kermit and Piggy some chocolate mousse.
God. Anyway, and then the only true, like, the
Steve
plot.
Martin and Lederhosen, Dragon.
Yep. So the
All
other
right,
thing would be
anyways.
the genetic sunblock thing, which is like, it's cool. And then here's the thing: what happened with the genetic sunblock with the Bat Gremlin is that they had the idea for the Bat Gremlin. They went really full tilt with it, and it was really awesome. But then they had this, like, kind of 8th hour, like 11th hour realization of, like, oh wait, we can't. As great as this sequence is, and to do the sequence, gremlins can't be out in sunlight. So what are we going to do? So they kind of added in the scene about the genetic sunblock, which then adds the plot hole now of, like, wait a minute, if we have a smart gremlin who got this idea for one gremlin, why doesn't he do this for all of them, or at least a lot of them?
I mean, my thing with the sunblock is just that, like, I don't know. I think it's a clever enough. Like, I feel like the sunblock kind of ties into just like how absurd Clamp Industries is just as a whole with what they're doing there. So,
I
like,
mean, the sunblock's fine. I'm saying, why didn't he use the rest of the sunblock? That's what
that's
I'm saying.
true, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm perfect. The sunblock's awesome. That's fine. I love that.
All right.
Also,
Should we talk about the Grandpa Munster style news broadcaster?
Well, yes. In 1 second, I just want to list it out just real quick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Did you notice the Mice and Men Gremlins? You had George and Lenny. Yeah. So you had George and Lenny, and again, obviously Mohawk, and anyway. So then, of course, some of the Vegetable Gremlin.
He was really cool.
Bat Gremlin, which again obviously builds to an '89 reference, which is quite funny. Spider Gremlin, which, a little love fest for that. The Electrical Gremlin, and ultimately, yes, the lady Gremlin. Should we talk about Rod Picardo now, or wait till to do that? You want to jump to the Grandpa Fred?
I think we should talk about him because he is a pretty major part of the movie.
Okay. So, so this is obviously very much a love letter to Al Lewis, as from the Munsters, and believe it or not, Spielberg absolutely loved this character because he was producing this film. Obviously,
I can believe it. It feels like something that Spielberg would be into,
and he loved the whole, like, Cronkite aspirations of the guy, which is a really nice through line for him. I kind of honestly, we hit it enough, and it's fine. It's like the idea there was kind of a connection to Billy that I think would have helped Billy a little bit, where the idea is that this guy also had aspirations for something bigger, much like Billy does as an artist. And we could have maybe kind of linked those a little bit more, but still, I just love this is like Joe Dante's soft spot for, like, the guy who likes doing the horror movie marathons and the B movie. He has the B movies to work with, and like Mr. Clamp doesn't like the black and white ones. You have a lot of love, a lot of reference. Like Rick Baker's first movie was like the Octopus Man that he did effects on, so they kind of put that in there, and it's like really cute. And it's like, yeah, it's just delightful. Just this oddball who ends up kind of like getting his big.
Do you recognize the cameraman by any chance?
Yeah, the cameraman is from UHF.
The iconic meme actor, if I can say so myself.
Yeah, he's from UHF.
Yeah.
You guys so stupid!
You so stupid!
So stupid!
It was a delight to see him pop up again, Dragon.
Yeah, and of course he has the great line in this movie, like, have a camera. I am a camera. Still, like, that's what I'm saying. I like the little oddball pairing of those two. Also, you're gonna love this. Did you realize that we have another Albuquerque-verse alumni in this film?
No.
So in the first movie, I will remind you, we had Jonathan Banks.
Right.
In the second movie, we have Tuco Salamanca.
No way, Raymond. Where the hell is
Oh,
Raymond Cruz?
okay, you're gonna love this. Okay, you're
Is he like
ready?
a little kid or something?
Well, I mean, okay, you ready for this?
Uh,
Okay, he's actually a pivotal plot point. Okay,
is
he's
he the
act.
guy who's whistling?
Yes,
Oh my
yes, he
god!
is. Baby
Oh, that's
Cruz,
insane.
baby Ray Cruz, right there.
That's fucking crazy.
And again, that's the thing. So again, just a real quick, I was a dovetail here. So again, the interesting thing about clamp, the clamp center here is the fact that it is very much the connecting rod for our stories between the Gizmo story and the Billy story and everything. And obviously, all the Gremlins and what they're doing. So the fact that like the little connecting dot, the little connecting center point between all of that in Clamp Tower is just this. It's just this delivery guy who's whistling the Mogwai song, and that guy is Raymond Cruz.
Oh man.
Delightful.
All right. Should we talk about a couple other notable cameos in this movie?
Well, I mean, obviously, Christopher Lee has quite the role as Dr. Catheter.
Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna say,
wish he had a little bit more to do, but I mean, I get it. He's not really the main central focus. It's just like whenever Christopher Lee pops up, you kind of just want him around as much as possible.
of course, we gave him some basically Christopher Lee. We did honestly with all the actors like Rod Picardo and everything. They did the classic principle of Freakazoid loves to do, where it's like let's get these really great award-winning, just phenomenal actors, and we'll give them the most ridiculous dialogue to say, so we'll be legitimized. It says, "I already have rabies," I need the flu. I need the measles. Christopher Lee had more scenes, T. But again, if there's anyone
I'm saying it's like it's a really fun idea for a character, like just a professor who's just like, or a scientist who's obsessed with like viruses. But
also they love that the dance scene was the hardest scene to do in the whole movie. By the way, getting Gizmo to dance, and it's the fact that you almost let him get away.
Yeah. Oh, I could see that.
But speaking of cameos, did you notice the twins?
The twins.
The scientists, the twin scientists that work for Dr. Catheter,
Martin
and Lewis. They're the twins. They're the twin actors from Terminator 2. Remember the ones that they shot that practically where you have the guy who gets killed.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've watched Terminator 2.
My point being, they're Hollywood twin actors, and point being. So they're the ones that did all the genetic mutations and everything. We have like two Gremlins that like dress as scientists behind them, which is like such a Joe Dante gag. It's just priceless. Anyway, so yes, our other cameos. Of course, they're my two favorite scenes in the movie, to be frank. Obviously we have the most meta scene in the film, which is when the film breaks during the exposition scene with Dr. Catheter. The projector gag, Tiki. The projector gag.
Yeah, I know. And so Hulk Hogan has to literally just like verbally chastise the Gremlins.
So I just love everything. I just love the fact we had like the usher in the theater. And by the way, this is inspired by what happened during the screening of the first Gremlins, where there was a woman and her child, like this woman and her daughter, who basically like Dante was aware of this whole situation. I don't know if she like knew Dante was in the theater or not, but basically he overheard this whole situation. He went out to like the usher. She went out to the usher and complained about the movie, and her daughter hid in the movie because I want to watch the rest of it. And then she had to sit through the whole movie to find her daughter.
Oh God!
So she was very unhappy with Joe Dante. So Joe Dante worked that into this bit here. But I love the usher, ma'am. We don't make the movies. We just show.
Yes.
And this the fact that he goes to Hulk Hogan, knowing okay, there's one guy we got in here who's going to be able to fix this.
And just the fact that like they know that Hulk's a nice guy. They know that Hulk will be down to help out.
What's infinitely funny to me is the fact that this is Hulk Hogan, like when he pops up in these cameos in movies that feature puppets. We have, again, this is the good guy phase of Hulk Hogan, and the next time we check in with him a few years later, it's going to be the bad guy phase in Muppets from Space. Like, I'm a bad guy now.
Totally. But like, also the Santa with muscles, he's very much a very humble, good guy in that movie as well.
Yeah, that he is. So just delightful. And also just the fact Gremlins in the projection booth, it's a brilliant idea. I love it. And apparently when the
shadow puppets.
Yeah. And apparently the only other thing the studio fought Joe Dante on, aside from runtime, was that scene. They basically, it was like an Andy Kaufman conversation of like, and people will think their TVs are broken. That whole thing.
Oh, dude, I'm so glad that they fought to keep that in.
Yeah. I was like, for some reason, they thought, well, literally, that scene's going to play out exactly how it plays out. They're going to leave if they think something's wrong. It's just going to be like a few seconds, though. Why would they leave?
about 2/3 into Everything Everywhere All at Once, it does cut to credits, and I will say they hold on the credits for way longer than this one does.
I remember when Vice
So
did that
it's a
too.
better fake out.
Well, Vice did that gag too pretty well, like when the credits roll. And it's like,
Totally, yeah.
It's like the actual credits, not fake credits, like Christian Bale.
No, that's what they did for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, it's like directed by everything.
So again, just a wonderful, just like a great, just such a heady idea, and just a wonderful kind of like fun, like, oh god, let's just literally let's break the movie in the most literal sense. And also, again, we're zhuzhing up the exposition scene. We're explaining it. Dr. Cather's explaining everything to him, and Billy's saying, well, no, here are the Gremlins, and here's how they work, and we cut away from it. So yes, let's see. So the other Leonard Maltin. Let's talk about the malt.
The legend himself, man. This is a pretty quick scene, but I love it. It shows that he has a sense of humor about what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, Dragon, the story is that notoriously he was one of the major critics that did not care for the original Gremlins.
Like one of the very few. I don't know how many.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Basically, Joe Dante had befriended Leonard Maltin. I don't know, probably before that time or not. I think it was the idea they were friends beforehand. They did that to him. He was like, oh, well, he just took it in stride. Joe Dante's a humble guy. He's like, okay, well, I didn't like them. And just he said, hey, Leonard, we're doing the sequel. You want? Can we kill you? And he says, yeah, sure.
Dragon, I think honestly the most quotable movie, the most quotable line in this movie is just, "It's a 10! It's a 10!"
I'm sorry, what? Oh yes, it's a 10. It's a 10.
It's a 10.
You know what's adorable? In his review of the sequel, you know what Leonard Maltin said?
What?
There are too many gratuitous cameos in this movie. Just so cute, but of course, I love when Leonard Maltin pops up and things like, of course, in Freakazoid.
This almost feels like a prototype of like the Bob Barker and Happy Gilmore style celebrity flashback. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, Leonard Maltin though was just that great bit of Tim Curry with all the Shakespearean resonance that he could summon, and the power of Leonard Maltin. But just when he pops up, and the fact that in general, there's some other things in the movie though, is the fact that Joe Dante is making fun of the critics and like the people pointing out plot holes in the first Gremlins movie, because we have the guy. Remember, they have the whole sequence where we call out the logic.
What if he's on a plane and he eats and then he switches time zones? It's always midnight somewhere.
They're scoffing at, and the guy who scoffs at it literally gets like Gremlin crashes through the control panel, basically bites him and then punches him in the face. just like saying, shut up and enjoy the movie.
Right, exactly.
Just great. And so some other cameos real quick. John Astin, the original Gomez Addams, he's the guy who gets Gizmo wet. Yes. In the water fountain. Yeah, so we had both Addams Family and the Munsters somewhat represented. Mind you, that is not the actual Grandpa Munster.
One of the ride storming topics that I'm probably going to put on the poll next week that someone suggested is Addams Family / Munsters Halloween Horror Night mazes. All right. Anyways,
so just in general, there's just like again, as I said, it's a love letter to the B movie, because again, Joe Dante's most lovely quality is the respect and homage that he pays to the films that inspired him in the old school kind of horror comedy. But as we mentioned with the Al Lewis thing, we also have just Christopher Lee as Dr. Catheter, and again, like we have like he's carrying like the giant seed pod and everything, from the giant seed pod thing. That's from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, isn't it? Yeah. So stuff like that. It's like a lot of like old school references. I think the most impressive one, I don't know if you caught it, when we do the Phantom of the Opera one, they shot it exactly like the original Lon Chaney film. So like,
I noticed that. Yeah.
He goes out of focus and he just walks towards cameras. Like, that is so freaking artful. Look at what he did there. And of course, because sadly the man has passed, and he's going to come up a lot this month. Dick Miller returning as Murray Futterman, and you know why he's back as Murray Futterman outside of the good luck charm thing, right?
Why?
Everyone thought, because they never showed him after the snowplow crashed through his house. Everyone thought,
that makes sense. Yeah.
So this is Joe Dante's thing of like, oh no, he's
like, all right, guys, don't worry about it. He's alive. He's fine.
Again, Dick Miller is absolutely basically his Bruce Campbell. He puts him in everything, mainly because he likes hanging out with Dick Miller. It's the main reason he's in all the movies. And what's really nice, Murray, oddly, second to maybe, probably more than Gizmo, honestly, if I'm being frank, Murray has the most defined arc of the film.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even really pop up until about halfway through, but yeah, you're right. He does kind of go through a transformation, oddly
Remember,
enough.
he had the PTSD in World War II
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah,
original
right, right.
like with the whole speculated gremlins of wartime, and he was basically the idea is he survived, but he didn't live well, folks. He was institutionalized because it flared up his PTSD. I just love the fact he loves his wife. I'm not crazy. You gotta let me in there. And he gets to kill the gremlins. I love how we kill the gremlins in this movie. By the way, like we soak them with water and
The
with the
electricity
hose.
mixed with the water. Yeah,
And the
totally,
fact
totally.
that again, this is such a brilliant idea because again, they were thinking, do we need the electrical gremlin? And they realized, oh my god, it's two birds with one stone. We can put the gremlin in the phone and use it as our magic bullet at the end when we do have our matchstick moment. Where oh no, what is the worst
It's
possible? Again,
absolutely a matchstick moment. Totally.
Tiki, it's such a matchstick moment in all the right ways. In which that came out before we even had matchstick moments. One could
Yeah,
say
yeah.
so. It's even more brilliant. The fact that okay, we're about to drop the tarp and they'll be eviscerated in the self-emulated in the sunlight. But what's the worst possible thing that could happen? It's raining. It's overcast and about to rain in New York, and that means if the gremlins step out that building, they'll get wet. They'll be infinite, and there's nothing that's going to stop them. Just love it,
Then it'd be pretty much Jurassic World Dominion, but with gremlins.
and probably better.
I'm cautiously
I'm not rooting
I'm
for it to fail. I'm not.
cautiously optimistic, Dragon. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm
It's
just
me
look.
in Jurassic Park. I'm literally like in an abusive relationship with that
I'm just saying
franchise.
the last one wasn't great. I'm sure this one definitely has an advantage on its side with who they're bringing back. But
All
it's
right.
like
Anyways,
they're alive because I'm alive. That's
I
not gonna
saw a
help.
still of Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler looking at a baby Triceratops that was actually animatronic, and it was adorable. All
That's
right.
what I'm saying. I'm hoping it can pull a finish. I mean, if they if they drop the ball, it's like man, they really did not have a chance. They had everybody come back. If they couldn't pull this together, there was
Yeah.
no hope for them.
I, all I want is for the main three to have just as much plot relevance, if not more plot relevance, than Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. That's all I want. I don't want them to just be shoehorned. Anyways, all
So,
right.
the one thing we should mention before we get out of here, getting back to, I guess, the Lady Gremlin of it all, just mainly talking about, I like how, while Billy is the town crier, I like that we pair him up with Daniel Clamp and Mr. Force, the Robert Picardo character. Seriously, what did you think about Robert Picardo? Because like Joe Dante, I don't know if you're going to see him pop too often, but he does pop up in a couple of Joe Dante things, and he's a great actor. What do you think of him?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. He's fine.
All right. Anyway, yeah, but anyways, I'm just saying I like kind of like the pairing of okay, if we're gonna that's the thing I think Billy all of Billy's screen time kind of went to like this kind of the more of a trio dynamic. Ultimately, it's like we're kind of
Right.
bifurcating them yet again, and then we kind of steal all of a sudden when we put Rob Picardo with the lady with the lady gremlin
Right. Right.
who digs him. So let's see. So again, we kind of talked about the climax already, and how that like kind of like they're all there, and we electrify them, and Mr. Clamp in quotes saves the day in SWAT gear and everything by really not doing anything at all. They just enter the building after the heroes did all the hard work. Oh, we had a really fun callback to the Santa Claus story with the Lincoln gag. That was a really funny fourth wall
Oh
gag.
yeah, the Lincoln gag. Yes. Yes. Just like Jesus Christ, what that's probably easily her most memorable moment in the movie, I think, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I just love just Dick Miller's reaction. Like, we don't have time to like, what is she going on about? Like a
It's like,
Lincoln's
what the
birthday.
fuck happened with this Lincoln looking dude?
Also, just because for the theme park enthusiast in you, I'm just going to ask you this: how cool and just quaint was that emergency exit?
Yeah, yeah, that was
Right?
kind of cool. That's honestly the type of emergency exit that they should have on the Star Cruiser.
Yes, they should. Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's just wonderful.
know what
So
weird thing I found out about the Star Cruiser recently?
what?
They have a room that actually goes outside and it's like open air and it's for and it's for claustrophobia and stuff, like if you're claustrophobic being in the building, but they literally just call it a weather simulator, even
How,
though all it is just like an open air sort of like courtyard.
how would they not just tell people if you're claustrophobic, don't come to the hotel?
I think it's really stupid.
Yeah, like why do we
Anyways,
have to engineer like a whole? At the very least, can you give like this like a projected ceiling? Is there nothing? Is it just like it's?
I don't. As far as I know, it's literally like it. Like honestly, it looks kind of claustrophobic in its own right because it's like it almost looks like a prison courtyard because there's like these
Yeah.
big walls and like you can kind of see the sky, but not really. The sky's kind of just like poking out of a crack. I'm like,
It
Jesus.
it just keeps getting better for non Mando Star Wars, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways,
So anyway, the end. I really love the ending of the movie too. I really love how again after we in quotes save day, basically Clamp is Mr. Wizard from the end of from the end of Wizard of Oz here, where he's basically like, hey, okay, money for you. You get to be my newsman now, and Billy,
uh,
you get a promotion, all the recognition you deserve because I love Kingston Falls, and like we should have been doing this in the first place instead of like the whole like bulldozing down Chinatown.
the
You
Kingston
know,
Falls thing is like a little bit out of nowhere, but whatever. I'll take it.
well, they did set up the painting and
They
everything. It
did. They
was
did.
there, and he
Yeah.
did like Billy's art, and that's the whole reason the lady hit on him, and his
Uh
boss was hitting on him, and the fact she gets her day in the sun. She's now his new like president of marketing and everything. And also, we talk about the Gizmo's marketability. I love the fact that Clamp got to see Gizmo in action. The fact, like, you know what I see when I look at him? Dolls, little suction cups on the hands. And that's the thing. That was the balance with Clamp, man. Where the fact is, he did have dollar signs in his eyes, but he's still again at the end of the day, it's like, oh, people's lives are in. We're talking about people's lives here. Imagine the lawsuits. Again, he brought up the people, but then he took away the wrong message. It's kind of Mr. Krabs like.
Sure.
He's there for you, but there's a bottom line. And yeah, it's a feel good ending followed by Picardo and the Lady Gremlin getting married. Because I don't know about you, Tiki. I was pulling for those two kids as well.
I mean, who wouldn't? It's a love story of the ages.
Yeah. Oh! Before we get out of here, New York.
All right,
New York,
really quick, Dragon. Right? I don't like these things going over an hour, but go ahead.
New York, and the Buzzley Berkeley number. That was really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. That was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put the Gremlins in New York, that's the way you do it. You have them sing New York, New York. And
I love how that musical number also takes place like pretty much right before the big climax happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the movie. That's all she wrote.
All right, so big thanks to Atomic Beast for coming on. I think this should be a really fun theme month. We're doing 4 movies total, and I am looking forward to the next one. We're doing Matinee next, right?
Yes, we are, sir.
Which I know practically nothing about, so that'll be an interesting one.
I can't remember. It might be even more. I think it might be his most critically well received movie. I think.
Ooh, okay.
I think. I mean, I don't know if Gremlins like topped like the 90% mark, but this is like the 90% kind of mark.
Well, maybe Leonard Maltin kept Gremlin from topping the 90% mark.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Maybe he did.
All right. Well, that's all for now, folks. Until the next screening of our tribute to Dick Miller's biggest fan, where our action figures are award winners, and we hogtie Leonard Maltin when he disagrees with us. On Joe Dante Month!
It's a 10! It's a 10!